Welcome along to another Eyeful multicast presentation. Multi, as there is both an audio podcast and a video version available on our website. In this presentation, Simon Morton presents part 1 of our shortened version of our recent worldwide webcast, which focused on the rather interesting findings of our 2010 Business Presentation Survey. Listen on to discover the results.
Just to give you a little bit of background to the survey, back in 2007, Eyeful Presentations conducted a similar survey to a much smaller group based primarily in the UK. Some interesting results came off the back of that, and have a look on the website. There's some information regarding that. But the 2010 survey was slightly different. Not only was it totally online, but we cast the net way, way wider than previously. 247 respondents, I'm pleased to say, joined us, and that was covering an entire spectrum of people, from one-man bands, from presentation specialists who may be sort of one-man consultancies, all the way through to presentation users from multinational companies. Some of the largest companies in the world thankfully took the time out to give us their thoughts and their views on the survey. So thanks again. If you were involved and if you were one of those respondents, thank you very, very much for your time. Also, this time round, we were a lot less UK focused, and we had respondents from across the globe. A large number of respondents from Europe, 58%, but it was wonderful to have so many people from North America offering their thoughts and their views as well, which links in directly with the work my colleagues in the States have been doing with some very large businesses over there. So in summary, a much more all-encompassing survey. So there were some key messages that came out from the number of questions that we asked. There were a couple of key things that came out that we thought we might share with you. Probably the most striking point that came through from the survey is that PowerPoint still very much rules the roost. That's despite some very interesting and quite innovative new products coming onto the market, looking to address some of the dominance that the PowerPoint has. We'll go through it in a lot more detail shortly. It's interesting to highlight that PowerPoint continues to remain very, very dominant in that market. The control of PowerPoint presentations, and generally presentations across the board, seems to continue to be an issue. There have been some improvements, and that's very, very positive. However, it's an area that certainly here at Eyeful Presentations rang some alarm bells, and so we'd like to talk through that in a little bit more detail. Presentation software usage remains pretty constant. There have been some areas where it's gone up and some areas that it's gone down, but across the board it seems pretty constant. And the other very interesting thing for us was the impact now of social media as part of the whole presentation mix. As Eyeful Presentations, we get involved in repurposing PowerPoint presentations in a whole heap of different ways to now place onto YouTube and to stick onto websites and what have you. What's interesting is now asking 247 people across the world, they're thinking in a very similar way as well, is how else can they repurpose these PowerPoint presentations, this strong collateral that they've created, in more engaging ways for their different audiences. No longer is it about sitting opposite somebody with a screen between the two of you. So first up, we thought we'd have a look at the different sorts of presentations that are being delivered through various bits of software across the globe. It'll come as no surprise to you that sales and marketing continue to rule the roost, with well over half of our respondents coming back to us saying, yep, that's pretty much what we use presentations for on a very regular basis. The use of presentation software for financial communications remains pretty consistent, whilst we have seen a huge increase in internal communications. This is an area where there seems to be some real issues around the quality of presentations. Some of the feedback, the anecdotal feedback that we got through as part of the comments section on the survey, was that internal communication seems to be poor relation. You can get away with lots of bullet points on internal communications. You can get away with bad clip art. You can get away with not a huge amount of preparation and structure to your presentation. So that was interesting, and that's often where some of these death by PowerPoint messages come through. Then on to exhibitions and conferences. Obviously, it's part of that ongoing marketing mix. But what was very interesting is we saw quite a steep drop in the use of PowerPoint and other presentation software as part of a training process. It seems that the flip chart is making a bit of a comeback. What I'd ask you to do is just be aware of that sales and marketing number. We will revisit it later on when we talk about the control of presentations. On to presentation software. We were at pains to make sure this wasn't a PowerPoint survey. However, it is very much the dominant piece of software out there. And a lot of the feedback, the anecdotal feedback that we got, the rants and what have you as part of the comments process, were very much focused on PowerPoint as a piece of software. As I've already said, PowerPoint remains king, but that dominance has been slightly dented with the introduction or the enhancements of other pieces of software out there. I'll run through these very, very quickly. You may not be totally aware of what they are and what they do. Keynote, in simple terms, is the Apple version of PowerPoint. Being given a bit of a leg up through the iPad, the launch of the iPad. There's a Keynote app for the iPad, which is very, very limited, but has made people think slightly differently about Keynote. There's been an ongoing and relatively good-natured battle between Keynote fans and PowerPoint fans over the last few years. We're pretty ambivalent. We work in both here at Eyeful Presentations, and I'd say that actually with the launch of 2010, there's no great difference. That probably the interface is the only thing that, if you're happy with an Apple-type interface, run with Keynote, and if you're more comfortable with a PC type of interface, then PowerPoint's probably your best bet, but there's not a lot in it. Slide Rocket is a really interesting idea. It's an online presentation solution. They've got a really strong marketing message. It's been pushed quite hard and was seen to be, or certainly positioned as, a bit of a PowerPoint killer. And they were looking to take PowerPoint on head to head. I don't know how successful that's been. Certainly our survey, as I'll point out later on, points to the fact that it's acknowledged but rarely used as a solution, it's a shame. Prezi, another very interesting option here. Prezi is an interactive presentation tool. Lots of strong marketing, lots of people interested in how this is making people think differently about their presentation experience. Is it a PowerPoint killer? We don't think so. And a lot of the survey came back saying that people had tried it and it was fun and a bit quirky, but ultimately they were going back to what they're comfortable with, which is the use of PowerPoint. I would say that this interactivity is great because it has made people think differently about the way that they work and structure their presentations. A lot of the interactivity that's available on Prezi is actually available in pieces of software like PowerPoint and Keynote. You just need to know how to turn them on. And finally, Google Presentations / Docs, online option, free. I have to say, it was surprisingly quiet. There was a lot of excitement on various discussion boards as and when this came out. But over time, it just seems to, I think as a result of the lack of functionality, seems to have just disappeared. So those are the other key pieces of software and services in the market. But like I say, PowerPoint really remains very, very dominant in that area. Probably the big news that came through from the survey in comparison to 2007 is that business users are no longer monogamous. They are going out there, they are playing around with other pieces of presentation software, trying different things out, and just generally looking to enhance the whole process. So PowerPoint used to be a one-stop shop. Now actually people are looking around in other areas and trying to understand quite how they may be able to use different softwares to different effects. So if not PowerPoint, then what are people using? The big thing that came through from this breakdown is that Keynote really has stepped up to the plate. There's a big, big step forward in the number of people that are using Keynote. Like I say, possibly as a result of the launch of the iPad. Prezi has done incredibly well. Almost 5% of the people that we spoke to have played with Prezi, which in itself is a huge thing. Slide Rocket, which is in there, is a slither. It's less than 1% of people have actually played with Slide Rocket, which is a shame. It's a great piece of software. I have to say, and this is a personal view, the positioning of going up against PowerPoint rather than working alongside it, I think is a bit of a mistake, and that's possibly where the issues have been. But an interesting spread, like I say, and certainly the growing profile of Apple's Keynote is something that I guess the guys at Microsoft are watching quite closely. That said, they can probably still sleep at night and pay the mortgage because there is a vast number of people out there that are using PowerPoint in various different ways. In a very short period of time, 2010 has done very well. Over 13% of the people that responded to our survey have already invested and are used in 2010. Now, there's a free beta out there, so the money may not have necessarily changed hands. What I would say is that once using the beta, it's sort of difficult, once you've had that functionality, to turn it off and go back to where you were. So I think that bodes very, very well for Microsoft and PowerPoint generally. I have to add a slight caveat in the fact that we know that a number of our respondents are very, very engaged with presentations, are verging on geeky, some of them, and I count myself very much as one of that group. We know, for example, that we have one of our clients who, at their company, are only up to 2003. However, he has gone out and purchased 2010 himself to sort of understand and play with at home, and then bring some of those ideas back into the office. So there may be a slight skew, but I don't think it's too marked. Breaking news as we were going through these webinars is that Office for the Mac 2011 will be available this October 2010. Again, that's another big push towards expanding this horizon.
Simon Morden there of Eyeful Presentations in part 1 of our recent webinar, which is all about the results of our 2010 Business Presentation Survey. Part 2 is also available on our YouTube channel now. To learn more about how Eyeful can help your business achieve that wow factor, visit www.eyefulpresentations.co.uk or simply call us on 0845 056 8528. That's 0845 056 8528.